Hello and welcome here, everyone. We're excited to be back in this studio, hopefully this time live. If you watched the previous recording of week number one's matchup, it was very exciting. 3-game series. Hopefully we get another one here today. My name is Orbital. With me is, of course, Ice Fire at Game, and we are going to be your casters here tonight for week number two. Teams are already underway with their season start, and tonight we got Fate Esports going up against Orbit Gaming Astral. Ice, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't wait to get into these games. It's going to be a fun time tonight. We had some great games from last week that we went over. I'm ready to go into week 2 with another banger.
Yes, we are. Both these teams are currently sitting at 0-1, which is quite the surprising factor, and I'm excited to see how they kind of play out. Of course, in this 5-week season, you're only really afforded, I want to say, 1 or 2 losses before things start to rack up, right? Top 4 do make it on into that playoff corner, and that way they match off against the other groups. Right now, we are in Group B, so that's going to be a little bit of fun to take a look at. Specifically taking a look, I know you mentioned that you took a look at Orbit's side here, and for them, it seemed like they may have struggled a little bit in terms of that macro rotation, some of those general coordination factors.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I was looking at them in prep for tonight, I noticed that they weren't doing a lot of the more traditional rotations, and they were giving up some free objectives, and then they were contesting objectives that weren't really contestable based off their tempo. So it'll be interesting to see, based off their drafts tonight, plus their practice from this prior week, if they've isolated those problems and managed to maybe turn some of those around.
And that's really, really important here. You're going up against a squad like Fate Esports, very highly noted on paper. One of the big things is a lot of their rankings. I got to take a little peek. These are all Master to Grandmasters, and I mean, to me, that seems fairly indicative of individual skill. Obviously, this means it's a hands check, and if you don't have the macro down, I mean, macro is what you use to almost overcome that skill difference, right? If you want to beat your opponent, anyone that's better, normally it comes in the macro game, being able to turn it around. So, I mean, Fate Esports coming in here, I'm expecting a little bit of a hands check, maybe, or we'll see where it goes from there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you can get as high as you want in solo queue, but if you can't work with your teammates, you can't effectively communicate and then move around the map at the right times. Because once you get up to these kinds of levels, it's not just about moving to the objective, right? It's about the tempo that you're placing around those objectives, about how you're placing your wards and how you're defending that vision as well. If you can't get there with the tempo advantages and manipulating your lanes and your minions appropriately, you're just not going to be able to succeed as a 5, even though you might be a Masters, Grandmasters, or Challenger player in solo queue.
It's very, very important you have those skills on lock. You're able to work with your team. And also kind of curious what those scores were from before for Fate Esports. On paper, they seem like a pretty dang strong team. And I wonder who would be able to knock them down into that lower standings. At the current moment, though, we'll see how it plays out. In the current patch as well, we have a few champions that are rising and lowering in priority. I know Azir, I believe, is still disabled at this current time. Still a little bit funky in that region, but any picks kind of stand out to you that you do want to see come out here? Anyone that you are hopefully going to see in terms of champions?
Wukong. I mean, hands
Mm,
down, it has to be Wukong. I've seen it in the LPL. I think it was LPL or LCK. Someone played it as the support with the Senna, obviously. That's one way to run it. But most of the time, it's going to be seen in the jungle. And it's just they've boosted some of the numbers, and he's just ticked over just slightly to where he's so good. So that's one. And then in top lane, Renekton. Renekton is just this lane bully early game champion that if you can get going, it's going to be back in the days of old where you had those Renekton Elise combos and you were just able to win the game off of that. Not quite as powerful now, but definitely something that can stand up to the traditional Aatrox and such that normally comes out of that top lane.
mhm. It's two power picks that we are really hoping to see. I wouldn't be surprised to see it banned away either, especially on that red side if you just don't want to deal with it. I think it is important to get it off the table. At the same time, we've been seeing other things. The Smolder is still somewhat prioritized by the mid to late game team compositions that really enjoy that scaling factor, being able to carry it onwards. As you said, Senna is up there as well. There are some other jungle factors, depending if you want to get aggressive or want to get a little bit safer. And right now, with what we understand, it is going to be Orbit Gaming on that blue side. So they will have first side selection. They'll get a little bit of an identification factor of what do they want to grab. And would you say either of those champions are really first pick worthy? You mentioned the Wukong Renekton. Both of these have been in the game for a while. if you are on blue side, would you actually put those as a high priority, or would you leave those a little bit further down?
See, and that's where the draft comes in, right? It all depends on the style that you're trying to play and what your opponent's playing as well. And is Smolder on the table or not? There was a hot fix that I believe went through that kind of tapped down Smolder a little bit, but still an overly strong champion that you still have to worry about. So if Smolder is up on the table, I want to see it picked. It's a must pick here. And then you have to follow that up with a Senna or something to match that kind of scaling. But if those two are off the table, it opens up the bot lane and it opens up picks around the rest of the map. And I would say Wukong is, but Renekton still has a lot of flaws that are very punishable. That would leave him for more of a B3 or R4 R5 or B4 B5.
And taking a look here, we'll see if they fall to the wayside here. You can already see the Karma band away here. Orbit Gaming Astral once again on that blue side to start game one, and then Fate Esports on the flip. I think this is appropriate. Belveth band away again. That is a Czark special, I believe, ensuring that gets changed. Also, Belveth did get a couple adjustments as well. I think a couple taperings to the scaling factor, but Karma and Fizz very heavily targeted towards those kind of more meta standard, and then the uniqueness, and then there it is. You were talking about an ice that Smolder. If it's not picked up, it better be banned.
Absolutely. And so far, I mean, this is pretty stock standard. You have a few of these more niche bands coming through targeted at very certain people on the other side, but Karma is still a very powerful pick, can be flexed into that mid or that support role. So glad to see that one's taken off the table. The Fizz in the right hands is still a very, very strong assassin, and the mage items are starting to come back up into priority over the assassin items again. So seeing some maybe these mage assassins coming back is definitely something that can happen as we see Vayne taken away, another very strong late game ADC. That once if you can really get it going, especially if you're playing a more tanky style of draft, can really start to hurt people. Um, I did see a Seraphine game coming out from Astral from last week. I wasn't a fan of it, I'll be honest, just with the nerfs and everything. She's just not as powerful as she once was. And Senna, that's kind of the power pick of the patch that's left in terms of a bot lane.
Got to go ahead, lock that one in. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Tom Kench either. At the same time, there are plenty other matches, but the J4 immediately gathered up here very quickly for the likes of, or I apologize, it is Czark that is on Orbit Gaming side. So that was yeah, that was a Belvet toss. Nope, brain lost. Czark on red side for Fate. Man, I am all over the place. I have my notes; they are not working for me. J4 and Hui though, very much set to go here, and I think that is a very powerful team fight composition. Hui was one that, as you said, the AP items are coming back, drop down in priority, but at this point, I think layers up very nicely as a blind.
Now, this is an interesting pickup by the Alistar for sure, because it's going to lean more towards a farming Senna rather than a fasting Senna. So, a lot of early game tankiness that can come through from the Alistar, especially once you hit 6, allowing for a lot of just very good engage and a little bit of safety from this J4, right? Because if this J4 EQs in, it's very easy for Alistar to just pulverize away, getting J4 out of that ult range. But this way can really send in a lot of long range utility. And on the flip side of that, you have a lot of wave clear with him as well. And Renekton being picked up, a very good power pick on the top side of the map. I'm not surprised to see this.
It's as you said though, a little bit on the nose, right? That Renekton blind pick will have a couple questionable counter picks available, and that leaves Fate Esports in a pretty solid spot. And when you see those ults coming out here, especially with an Alistar, I don't dislike this, right? I actually really, really do appreciate this. Of course, that might force the way down into that support role or in that APC in the bot side. Of course, it could go to the top side as well, but locking in that Silas now means Orbit Gaming have to be aware that the next two picks, you can't be giving over too many big ultimates.
No, you can't be. Silas is very good with stealing of those ultimates, but on the flip side of that, Silas is a little bit weaker right now, so it'll be interesting to see how they pilot it and how comfortable they are on the champion, because I would assume this isn't really a power pick in terms of the meta, but more in terms of the hands that are piloting it. Gragas and Aatrox are two very good top laners being taken away, so I'm assuming that, or Gragas is also a jungler, but I'm assuming that Silas is going to be going into the mid lane with Wei going support, as Astral is banning away top laners.
focusing pretty heavily on that top. The Aatrox is there. So far, 1 of 2, maybe getting that 2 of 2. The Tristana focus, though, saying, hey, look, it might be in the mid lane if we want, so let's go ahead, take that away from Orbit Gaming. The Darius, at the end of the day, once again, very appropriate. You want to give that Renekton one of the best matchups you possibly can. And now, I mean, for a Fate, you get counterpick, right? I mean, you get counterpick in both, if my assumption is right, either ADC and support and the top lane. So I'm very, very curious to see what they do opt to go for. Plenty of other power picks on the table. I think Jax is still available. I know it might be a skill expression matchup in there, but they are going to go ahead and hover a little bit of engage in the bottom lane. The
Oh.
Nautilus finalized through.
So that totally changes things. This could be like a Hui APC instead.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you don't see all that often, but would make sense into the Senna because they can match the Senna a little bit early on and has some good wave clear to push the Senna in. Um, I don't know if I like it all that much. You're losing out on a lot of reliable damage. And with this Ari coming in on the opposite side, you're gonna be under threat a lot from the side of Fate in terms of your backline. And you don't have, I mean, you have a Nautilus, you have a J4 that are decently tanky, but nothing really that can dissuade an Ari from getting into the backside when she has her ult.
It's a little bit difficult. You're really playing on the nose there, saying, hey, we got to get the dubs, and it is going to be that jungler to round things out. A little bit of a Viego pickup here, and this is kind of the assassination that they were hoping to have, be able to clean up, be able to finish off a lot of these fights. Also scales pretty well into mid to late. You're looking at the powerhouses coming out here. Senna's going to take a little bit of time to scale. Renekton's a little bit more early game centric. Yes, Ari got some adjustments, and I appreciate that, but you still needed that branch, right? That mid game, clean up, let's get some balls rolling. On Fate, though, heavy on the front line. A Cassante coming in here in that top lane. As you said, Ice, it is going to be a Hui in the bottom lane, farming it up against the likes of a Senna Alistar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not I love the front line that Fate has brought out. My one concern with their comp is where is their AD damage?
Right.
You're not going to be getting a lot of that from the J4 or the Cassante. Like they have some, but compared to what the Senna and the Renekton can put out, you just have a lot more of a mixed damage profile coming through from Orbit Gaming Astral that kind of rounds out their comp. It's a much more traditional comp than the side of Fate. So with Fate's comp, you really have to snowball early and snowball hard so that the likes of the Alistar and the Renekton don't get big enough where they can kind of brush off and build items to counteract that AP damage coming through.
At the same time, we know how quickly Hui can shred through the opponent. So, at the same vein, Orbit Gaming, they want a good start to the game. It's not all sunshine and rainbows if you wait out the early game. Viego is a champion that really does need to scale up quickly. You want to get a very nice start. You want to get those early kills. And Ari wants to be roaming out level 6. And then Senna, of course, wants a very strong early game farming time. I mean, with an Alistar, I think this is pretty appropriate that this is farming Senna, not fasting Senna here. If you are the likes of Orbit Gaming Astral, where are you actually looking to try and provide that cover for the Viego? It's a B5, right? Like this is your big kind of linchpin piece of the rest of the comp. Where are you going to be positioning that Viego to start getting those kills, getting that pressure down?
I mean, yeah, and it's all gonna really be based around these grubs, right? You've brought in a Renekton, you've brought in an Ahri, and now you have this Viego, which is one of the best early game skirmishing junglers that you can grab right now. That's still very good in the meta. With that, and then throwing an Alistar in if you get that early roam, you're really needing to get these grubs early. You've drafted for this, and getting the kills around grubs will set you up for success. You also have great siege, so grubs are really going to be useful, especially you can get that hit that 5 or 6 mark. That's going to be the key. And on the side of Fate, you have to be stacking these dragons. You have to be forcing these fights on your footing, which means setting up these dragons and knocking them down on spawn almost to force a soul point fight, a soul fight, and a potential elder fight if the game goes long enough. Those are your keys in order to really get this comp ahead because you don't have the same range that a Senna might have in terms of consistent damage dealing capabilities.
All right. Well, there you go. Some thoughts moving in. Of course, we are going to wait for the players themselves to get set for this matchup. Exciting drafts for game number 1. I expect nothing less from these two teams. We'll go ahead, go to a very short break, and Crunch Time GG. We'll be back with the Infinity League start to game number 1. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we are live here, game number 1 on the Rift, and I am excited beyond belief. We are getting this spicy game number 1, and I am hoping for nothing more or nothing short than exemplary right now. We already have that down as we see a nasty little change here. This is going to be some, I want to
It's
say
gonna be a full
tasty gameplay here.
5v5.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I was not expecting
I'm
this, but it's well
excited.
identified. Astral already know this is going to go down. And with that invade, it's going to be a knock-up and a little bit of a chain. Nice big Q coming out from Grandma Steve, but that's going to be the change. And that's going to be decided to pick up one, but how much more damage is going to come back? The deaths are flying quickly, and it looks like Astral, with their first jump, have caught the rest of Fate by surprise. It is going to be 2 dropping quickly, but that's a 2-for-1 trade that Astral are going to be happy about.
Yeah, I think that went really well. The first blood going on to the Silas, I think is going to be huge to try and get him going against this Ahri. It's going to be a rough lane overall, especially since he's going to be arriving late to lane. So Ahri's really going to have early roam pressure around it. But overall, I mean, that was a 5v5. I'm glad we started off with a banger, with a spicy 5v5.
And I mean, some souls on the Senna early on, right? Getting that Q across the entire wave feels kind of good. Or I wouldn't say wave, but across multiple players. And I think it's very appropriate, right? You're able to get a lot of value at the start. You burn maybe 1 or 2 summoners. I think it was a flash Ignite from Pizza the Cat. Not only that, it's a flash from the Silas and then, of course, from Czark. So multiple little bits and pieces. Whereas on the side of Astral, they didn't really burn that much. So a huge dub for them. But as you said, they are going to get some value there as Dìble kind of holds off. This is the main part, though. Top side, Dravoon getting a pretty solid start here on this Renekton.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just see the power of this pick. Already chunking Klein on the Cassante to under half health, having to use that grasp to get just above. And it's really going to be the tale of how much can he withstand without dying and without giving up too much CS. Because Renekton doesn't have mana issues, and with Cassante, he's going to have to be blowing Qs constantly to try and keep this wave from being constantly shoved under turret.
It's already happening, right? You talked about the power of the Renekton. It's a nice little recall out of Dravoon. It also allows the rest of the farm to kind of be picked up by these junglers. But you can see here in the mid lane, Dìble is going to get a little bit of front-loaded fight. Has to burn that flash, gets a charm down, but pretty much on repeat. This is what a J4 wants to do. We didn't talk about it too much in the draft because we've seen it so often, but early gank pressure coming out in the favor of Fate.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking across the map, the Silas managed to, with the first blood money, to pick up the Dark Seal. So that's going to help them out a little bit if they can start to rack up these kills and assists. As a hook barely misses from Nautilus, that would have been a huge chunk of damage onto the Senna. But whenever you're trying to get some of these early game plays off, you're really trying to disrupt how this map is gonna play out. And when you have an Ahri into a Silas, it's really a rough as we see a gank coming through now. Are they going to land the charm? They do.
Yeah, it's easy work, and honestly, with no flash, the flash change was big, but Dìble says, yo, I got my jungler in my back pocket as well. This push could be a bit spicy, but with that ward down, J4, no rebuttal.
Yeah, absolutely. This is how this lane should be going.
Oh, that dragon under the tower. Oh, man. Oh, boy. That was a beauty of a knock-up. Hag, with the summoner spell advantage, said, yo, that's a kill. Kraken now going to get slowed up, is in that flash range, but now you're knocked up again, and another stun should come through. A final Q. One more auto should do it. And the draw, the heal is big, and Kraken Slayer! Kraken Slayer tried to greed, or saw Grandma Steve try and greed, and that's a big pickup on the turnaround. Kraken Slayer happy to grab Grandma Steve's life. Hag is, of course, going to live, and with that entire change, keep in mind, Grandma Steve was the one to kind of initiate that challenge under the tower.
Yeah, absolutely. It started off really well for the side of Astral, getting that headbutt underneath the tower onto Nautilus, forcing him to flash and then, or not even flash, he had to hook out, so there was no real follow-up. And then they just over-greeted for the Hui, and ultimately gave a kill over. I mean, you like to see the early initial play, right? But over chasing like that is the one thing that shouldn't be happening if you're the side of Astral in terms of making sure you get ahead and stay ahead.
Really does feel bad, but we'll see what else they can do right now. It's not the worst mistake in the world. It's a feels bad one, but not the worst. And as lanes even out, keep in mind, it's still in Astral's favor. Take a look, right? That 1.3k lead in favor of that squad means that Joker is pretty dang strong. About 1,000 gold up on the lane opponent. Bot side is only about 200, but that's why we're seeing this change up. Hag now saying, yo, this is going to be a challenge, and it's instead the Senna that gets eaten up for lunch. Kraken Slayer eats him all the way through in the river, and now Joker trying to run for their life. It's a beauty of a catch, and this is kind of what we talked about, right? The dangers are abound. Hag able to get a double knockup and dodging out on the hook means no further kills will come through.
And you can see they're really trying to set up around this early dragon. Astral knowing that that's really the power point of the side of Fate Esports, and denying them that would delay the game enough where their potential Senna would scale and do enough damage and enough healing where they can't keep up. As well as it's an Ocean Soul, and nobody wants to give up an Ocean Soul.
Nope. You don't want to give up that early Ocean Dragon. It's a nice little percentage drift in for you. It gives you that extra little boost that you want in the early game, so gotta give it up. Joker gonna freely pick that one up, and I know you were talking about the grubs and everything, but the grubs have been kind of untouched because of the action on the bottom lane, and it draws the kind of question, right? How long are we gonna keep seeing these actions kind of play out? After the dragon is taken, it does show that we are watching, but Fall eating up a lot of damage here. Ooh, that could have been Dìble getting a little bit antsy with it. For right now, though, seems pretty safe. Czark gonna go ahead and gather up their own. Upside, Dravoon saying, I want a piece here. Joker coming in from the side, though, only level 5. Keep that in mind. Oh, Czark face plants into the wall, and it might be a difficult way out, but it looks like you're safe. Dravoon flashes from Czark's life. In the mid lane, we're seeing Fall take out Dìble, and Kein is waiting for a chance. Down they go. I believe that is Mustard in the top side. So Czark is going to fall same as a Mustard, but in the mid lane, Fall beating out Dìble.
Absolutely, and you can see the power of the Silas being able to steal that Ahri ultimate and then forcing out that Ahri ultimate early on, making so that there was no flash, no Ahri ultimate for that Nautilus roam. Really great job by them, noting that there was a power point in the mid lane just based off of tempo, and absolutely collapsing on it and doing an excellent job. Unfortunately, losing out on the other side of the river, giving a Renekton a double kill there. Really gonna, I mean, you can see he already has this Caulfield's Warhammer to just the chain vest and cloth armor from the Cassante. So, yeah, there's a close CS difference, but this Cassante is gonna be, when he stat check next, is not gonna like it at all.
It's gonna feel bad, it's gonna feel worse, and at the moment, that might be where Joker kind of plays into, right? There are current situations that, you know, the bot side is really not faring well. I mean, Grandma Steve's still waiting to kind of get off that rocker and maybe get a little bit more help. 2, 2, and 1 doesn't feel bad, but against a Hui who has easy burst ability, it's a whole different side. Hag trying to drift their way into the mid lane, but spotted out by Pizza the Cat. It's going to hold steady, right? After all the action early, it's going to try and even out.
Yeah, I mean, and earlier on, after that level 1, you mentioned the Senna loving the stacks that she was able to get off of that. She's already up to 20, so it's fairly decent soul stacking to start, making so that they can, even though they're farming and they won't get as many souls, the amount of action that there is getting them almost to where they would be if they weren't farming, thanks to just the Qs and the autos that are coming through.
The trades and hopefully more stacking available. Joker this time around able to grab these grubs, which fortunately I think the most we're going to see are 3 because they weren't taken earlier, so a little bit of a difficult place there. J4 though being kind of notified on that ward. Hag and Grandma Steve not willing to step forward. As much as you want to kind of keep him down here, it's not going to work, right? Like, you can't risk the chance of the Senna getting dragged into a battle again. So it's going to go ahead and be a nice little trade. Now an invade coming up from Joker, trying to get a little bit of an advance over the likes of Czark.
Flash out from Grandma Steve from the engage of Kraken Slayer there. Very well comboed by them on the way. It seems like they've been practicing this pick quite a bit, and it's not just something that is a little bit of an ego, like, yeah, I can do it, I've played it once, but it seems like they've actually put a lot of time in on scrims with something like this. So they've been playing it out very well. Looks like a gank by Joker on the top side potentially being set up here.
This is going to be big, and I mean, it's already a nice little drop in. Dravoon says, yo, I almost didn't need the help, but it never hurts to have insurance on the bot side, though. We're getting a 2v4, and this is Fate saying, we can't really give this one up. We need to try and get something back. That's going to be Fall getting into the backside. Ozone making sure that their name Fall and Ozone both hold steady, but you're going to fall a little bit short, right? No kill on the bot side. You get a couple plates. Top side falls the way of Astral.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that's what they're trying to attempt here, but looking across the map, you had a kill going over to the Renekton again, so he's taken a plate now topside. Ari got free time on mid, and your Wei and Nautilus only got 2 plates, and you didn't get any kills, so I'm struggling to see in that trade how they came ahead. I know it's something that you almost have to do, but it just didn't quite work out. It was very well played by Pag to make sure that they didn't get anything, and it's good to see that Grandma Steve and Pag did drop off that turret so they didn't get dove, but not getting the stuff that they needed really is not what you're looking for, because they're just getting set further and further behind, growing to an almost 2k gold lead at this point with the Cloud Dragon now spawning.
It's just it's a problematic situation. You talked about the fact that they want to start getting rolling early, and I mean the MR builds are going to start coming out very quickly as well. So with this Dragon stacking, it's a big dub, and of all Dragon Souls to happen, it is going to be the Infernal. That is going to change the likes of this game very, very quickly. With this start by Astral, they feel like they have a pretty good contention for the rest of them. And I mean, that to me is going to get a little bit spicy. I'm excited to see how Fate decide to try and play this mid game.
A little bit of a skirmish there over by the Raptors, but nothing really coming of it. I didn't see who managed to grab that, but a massive CS difference coming out of the jungle there. Viego almost, I mean, is actually 30 CS up over the J4. You don't want to see that. I mean, yes, J4 is one of these just perma-gank junglers, but you also can't be falling this far behind, especially when the Viego is also getting kills. Really making it hard for this J4 to have a presence on the map in the mid game when they're one of the main engage tools of this comp, and they're not going to be tanky enough to do that.
It's just a problem. It's one that they're going to run into very quickly, and I'm always just, you know, at the end of the day, a J4 will always have relevancy in that kind of jump forward. The flag and drag is going to be also powerful, but look how much time Czark is laying into the spot side, right? Pink ward goes down, and now you're looking to dive once again, but it's just Grandma Steven and Pag have already identified that Czark is going to be looking on the spot side so many times, and they're not even worried, right? As long as they don't die again, I think they're going to be really, really happy. Of course, with the Force, it's going to be a little bit of a difference. That's going to be the call. Pag using that Unbreakable Will, trying to stay alive, and is going to be able to flash away. A little bit of root isn't going to stop them, though, as Pag is now chunked out. A Cataclysm to finish it off, as that is one of the hardest forces of a bot lane dive I've seen in quite some time.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it did get onto the J4, who does need that gold, but really you want that getting onto the Wei. I'm glad that they were able to make something happen as the tower plating did finally fall, as it is 14 minutes. But because of that, because of how hard they forced, they didn't manage to get anything else off of that turret. So now they're just having to recall. Senate is able to collect the wave and still have a turret there.
It just feels like Overgaming Astral are just being able to kind of buffer the aggression from Fate, right? Being able to kind of let it lead into them, doesn't let it break them, and they're doing okay. Joker now on the top side, gonna try and repeat what they've done so many times before, drops the Herald early just to ensure that this tower dive is gonna work, and Kein's in a really, really rough spot. No TP from Ozone, and that's going to be the call down. A little bit of a driving action as Kein jumps out from outside of tower range, and it's just an easy pickup. First tower goes down, and I mean, that's a huge, huge fallback. Orbit Gaming getting so much value here. Astral squad to grab first tower. Ooh. And on the bot side as well, I didn't even notice that. That bot lane fight with the dotting shadow works wonders. And now the top tower's secondary is going to fall. With J4 falling in the wings, Fate are losing piece by piece. First it was Kein, and then it was the bot side Kraken Slayer. and then it was Czark. Everything kind of falling apart here.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just see them almost making desperation plays. Fall trying to go in as well, missing the second part of the E, catching a minion and losing out on most of his health once again. It's just across the map, it feels like J4 trying to flag and drag to save an already almost dead turret is a very questionable thing to do, because it's gonna go down, and you know that Viego and Renekton are on the strong side of the map for Astral right now. You can't be making those types of plays because you're just handing them over more gold.
We saw this composition come out of Fate, and we were wondering exactly, if they were going to be able to carry themselves, if they were going to be able to kind of fight their way through, and they showed valiant effort, but take a look at the itemization. It's starting to get in their face, right? A Wit's End coming out for Joker very quickly in this bottom side. It's a heavy dive in as well. Tower is going to fall, though, as it's a revisit with Czark, but this time around it's a dub with a 1-for-1 trade in value of Astral, with Dìble coming in to help out. It's a 4v3, but Pag able to kind of hold up a majority share of them. Of course, it is Dravoon that's going to get right into the mix, but guess who's coming off of the wings? Joker, ready to help out, and Pag was able to sustain. Now the rest of the kills might come through here. Joker slaughters one, gets the soul, looks for another Dravoon into the back line. HP bars are so low, Fall running away for their life. It's going to be another kill for Dìble as they are slaying Piece of the Cat, and dire straits abound as Astral win out. Yes, 2 were lost, but 3 were gained.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was opted in by Fate, trying to overforce that once again, getting 2 TPs, having the Cassante and the Sylas TP onto that. That was a huge desperation play. They feel that they're losing, and they had to make something happen. And yeah, they got the turret. Yeah, they got the center right off the bat, but they kept going in and in and in, even after the strong side of Renekton showed up, and they were actually losing on the 3v4. And then once the Viego showed up, it was all but done and dusted to finish off what little kills there were left. So now you can see, because of that fight and because of the tempo advantage gained by the over-aggression of Fate Esports, Astral is able to grab that Infernal Dragon, setting them onto Soul Point, and really setting them up to win this game, unless they make some pretty heavy blunders, I would have to say.
I love the fact that you pointed it out. I think it's very important, right? At this point, it's Astral's game to lose. You have Infernal Soul up in just a little bit, 4 minutes in that time. You can go ahead and just push down the rest of the towers, right? Top side is more than open. 5-1-4 with Dravoon. A split pushing threat. Dìble is now starting to become a massive threat in their own. 2-1-4. Fall has tried a few times to get those kills, and surprisingly, Dìble actually flashes away. I would have been surprised if you actually go for it, right? Just try and take that fight. Pag, though, coming around the edge, closing off what Fall wants to do, and with no flash on this Sylas, I don't think you're going to get away for free. Donning Shadow from the edge. Easy pierce straight through. And that'll be Grandma Steve to get an assist on the back end as Ozone has left the building.
Yeah, absolutely. Great play by the side of Astral to force onto the Sylas, who was overextended with 0 vision, right? If you look at the side that he was pushing on, they have 0 wards in that jungle. He dropped a single ward, the blue trinket, into Tribush, and Alistar was already there, so it was too little too late for him to try to get out, and he thought he was safe because of the tower. But when you have an Ahri, when you have an Alistar, and when you have a Senna to come over the top, you aren't safe on the map when you're pushed up that far away from your tower and you're that far behind.
It's a problem to be had, and honestly, for Fate, I mean, where do you go from here, right? You kind of lost in a couple different respects, right? Top side didn't go your way. Your Cassante is not this Cassante threat that we normally like to see, especially with the counter pick. And Ozone is kind of falling to the wayside. Your AP carries are not really there. What do you need to do to get back into this game?
I mean, they need to collapse onto the Renekton and get this Wei some gold. Wei is your damage. They're the long-range artillery mage. They're really going to be setting up a lot of the poke damage that you need in order to hopefully outpoke the healing of Senez. It looks like Dìble might be caught out here.
I think they're fine. Dibble's chilling, right?
Yeah, having used the ult.
It's very safe.
Yeah, using the ult, making sure that they dodge out on the second round of E from the Sylas, and it looks like they're just gonna start Baron. As a coach, I'm not happy with this Baron, only because there's very little vision setup from the side of Astral for this. Typically, you want to litter the red side jungle there with wards so you know where they're coming from. But because they're so far ahead, they can kind of cheat it a little bit. But there's also, they have mid tower down. They get to protect that still. They're always going to have mid push as a great headbutt pull comes through onto Fall. And he's just going to get taken out.
Yeah, it's just an easy kill, right? We talked about this, right? The pick potential coming out from Astral is huge. Not only that, it seems that the call can go back. You talked about vision. Sometimes you don't need it if you have priority members already killed, and one of those is Ozone. Ozone is huge in terms of the power you can output. The hijack is so important. At this point, they're just going to get it started. Once again, Dìble is going to try and run interference here. Czark on the far side, but spotted out by that pink ward. Everyone on Astral side gathering pretty heavily inside of the pit. And that's going to be a flash over. Pag, misses out on their jump, but the rest of the team is to follow, and they actually jump right into the pit, but the gold is just too much. As down goes Pizza the Cat. In comes the Cassante, but I don't think Mustard can do anything. You're trying to make your worth, but unfortunately, you're only sustaining. That's going to be a jump in from Czark, as you're able to finish off one, but it's not going to be enough. It is a finisher. No, not even a kill. I thought there was. It's just easy work for Astral as Orbit Gaming take a delayed ace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that is almost a wallet slap there. Having Alistar flash over, misses Q, throw his ult out, and then everybody piles in and manages to kill them. And Pag doesn't even go down. That's just because they were able to weather the early storm coming from Fate, where you could almost consider it a low damage comp, because if you look at the side of Astral, right, they have a Senna, they have an Ahri, they have a Renekton, they have a Viego. That's a lot of damage coming out. Viego and Renekton are like hybrid in a sense. They deal a lot of damage, more so Renekton being the hybrid than Viego, but being tanky is really what you need to face off against something like what Fate has. And we see another fight breaking out around the Soul here. A good flank and a good headbutt pull coming through.
Yeah, I mean, that's really going to pop things up. Easy play, easy does it. Joker is now legendary as the slaughter commences. Kraken Slayer is slayed, and I don't think anyone on Fate enjoys this fate to be had. It is an ace once again. No one cares about the dragon. Well, about 3 people do, but with an ace, you can do all you want. Soul is Orbit Gaming, same as the towers.
Absolutely, and you can see the power of forcing an early Soul fight whenever you want to be ahead, right? When you see something like this happen from Astral, they got ahead. They knew that the Soul fights were going to be, the Dragon fights were going to be the power points for Fate if they got ahead, so they stopped them early. They basically, instead of playing the strong side of the map, they instead reinforced the weak side, which sometimes can work, but sometimes also won't work, as Dìble gets caught out, does have flash, but does not have their ultimate. I don't even know if you'd consider them caught out here.
No, I think they're going to be fine. They're floating away just fine. And I mean, you don't have an ADC, right? You have spell slingers on the other side, so Fate are not going to enjoy that one. It is an easy cleanup, and I mean, you're trying your best, right? Piece of the Cat falling there, it's understandable. You're just trying to get something for Fate.
Yeah, you now what you have to do from the side of Fate is force plays, and yes, the game may end faster, but you're gonna lose no matter what unless you try to make a play happen, and that's what they're trying to do. They noticed that Ahri was overextended and should not have been that far up, but just because they're so far ahead, it doesn't matter at this point. And trying to make a play there, she didn't have ult, she had flash, so it was the smartest play that they could make with losing as little as possible. Nobody else was on the map, so there was no reinforcements coming. I liked what they were attempting to do. It's just Ahri is at 11,500 gold, 7-1 and 10, and Silas is at 7,600. You're not able to really match that at any point.
It's a problem to be had, and at this point, Astral are really just knowing how to close out the game is going to be it, right? At this point, they have all the pieces. They don't need anything else. Just can you close the game out cleanly? And one of the ways to do so is just get an easy kill. Fall is going to heal up under the tower, but it's just assassination. Dìble says thank you very much. Pag now inside of the mix, as the rest of the team takes the mid inhibitor tower and then the inhibitor to boot, because Czark going to get chained up and rooted and killed, and it seems like it is done. The Dawning Shadow just to praise a few more lights, as Dìble watches the base crumble to bits. Fate are wondering what just happened. The composition in game one did not work. Dìble gets knocked up with a depth charge, but this attempt at a hold is only going to last so long. A knock away as Mustard is given no quarter, and this will be the finish. Kraken Slayer dropping the fear, but Dravoon straight into the backline. HP bars, I guess, are not as big as I thought they were, as Dravoon is trying to get the heal. Almost swallows through in the kill, but it is going to be Kraken Slayer to win that shutdown, but a little too late. The Nexus will fall behind, and it'll be Orbit Gaming Astral to take game one.
Absolutely. Well played by them. This game one very much was great macro. They had an excellent draft, very stock standard. They managed to play to their win conditions, shore up where they needed to, and didn't give over free kills on that bot side in those first early tower dives that could have swung the game back in the favor of Fate Esports.
It's very, very important to go ahead and hang on to your leads. And I would say, as you said, big buffering on the bot side. Understood where their weaknesses were going to be. Let the rest of the team kind of carry out. And for Fate, I mean, where do they go from here? Because it does feel like the double AP might have had its moments, but that top side kind of fell to the way. And then, of course, some of those bot side fights just did not go their way. If you are Fate Esports, Ice, what are you hoping to change for game number two?
Don't give over easy power picks. You can't just hand over a free Renekton and not have an answer for it. Obviously, that Cassante is not it. They did well in lane, kind of, but handing over early kills for almost free, I would say, just not warding those lane brushes and expecting the Viego when they came around. You have to be able to track the jungler there, and you have to draft a little bit more of a traditional comp. They were lacking on damage in a lot of those later fights, and I think that came down to not having a more traditional comp, I would say. I liked the Hui in lane early. They really were able to take control of the wave and keep pressure on, and they almost took that tower, and they were able to finally get it later on. But because they didn't have a lot of just damage coming through consistently, with Wei, it's a lot more poke heavy. You can launch an artillery shell long distance once or twice in a fight, but you don't have that continuous auto attack damage that you can get from a Senna or a Jinx or a Smolder that really will do a lot more in a fight rather than a Hui.
All right, well, there you go. Some thoughts moving in. As we go to a very short break, we'll be right back with game number two. What could be the end of the night or a continuation into game three. Please don't go anywhere. Crunch Time GG will continue in just a bit. one. We are moving pretty quickly. Earlier we were waiting for everyone. Now we're kind of moving through the paces. And again, after the game one, Orbit Gaming Astral, I think, are more than happy to get things rolling and moving because they had a very commanding game number one. Fate Esports now on the blue side going to try their best to kind of hang on, but a Smolder first ban on a blue side is quite surprising to me. It shows that Fate are not comfortable with that champion. However, it's going to go quickly, right? Orbit Gaming still okay with the bans that they threw down in game one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually very confused by this Smolder ban for sure. It's just such a strong power pick that you need to be able to play it, because you're now burning a ban in on blue side, for something that you can be is absolutely be oneable, and not doing that shows your discomfort on the champion. Same thing with the Renekton again. Maybe not uh blue, not maybe not first pick, but it is almost up there, especially with Smolder not there, but definitely first roundable like we saw last game, and just not feeling comfortable on these champions could be a sign of weakness for this squad in their weeks moving forward.
Not just that, very understandable. That is going to be a ban against Renekton. It was very powerful. Dravoon played extremely well on that champion, which I think is very, very appropriate. So taking that one out, of course, that does leave open, I believe, it was Seraphine that was left open this time around. So see if that kind of changes things. Zeri, first pick, though. A lot of other ADCs on the table that could be played, but Kraken Slayer really wants that Zeri.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zeri is a very good safe pick, but I mean, the amount of damage profile that you can get from other ADCs right now is a little bit better, a little bit more of a consistent damage dealer, and it's very short range. And you can see that countered by the Caitlyn immediately. A very good pick overall for in the Caitlyn to punish this Zeri because of how short range it is.
It's just a little bit feisty here, and I'm excited to see exactly what comes down. I mean, right now, in my opinion, I'm loving this Caitlyn pickup. I very much enjoy it. It's also just annoying. But now you got
Yeah.
to blind a little bit of the rest of the map, right? You got to go ahead and figure out, do you want to go with jungle again? I mean, I think the Viego had a lot of power behind it, but you're going to go ahead and say, it's okay. We'll go with the Vi. I like this call as well. It gives you a very nice engage. It also keeps a lot of opponents off the Caitlyn. I think very strong jungle.
Yeah, absolutely. This Vi is a direct counter to Zeri because Zeri wants to fly around this fight, jump over walls, and do Zeri things. And this Vi is basically gonna say, no, you're not gonna allow to do that. I'm just gonna cease and desist you, and I'm just gonna push you into the ground.
Oh,
Now this Volibear pick is spicy. The Emerald team in the org that I coach in, absolutely a strong pick, lots of healing coming through,
yep.
and it is just such a tank there that I think will be a surprising thing coming through on the top side. I've seen it in the jungle, don't like it as much there. Definitely should be a top tier, top side pick, but it is going to go into the jungle. Aatrox, another good pick there. You saw it banned in the second round last game. They're saying we're picking it before it gets banned in this game.
And I love the fact that they have gone for power a little bit more. And I was gonna say the Volibear is one that I've seen around the Rift as well, and it's quite surprising. So now Orbit Gaming do kind of have to sit there and go, okay, now we need tank busters, right? Let's be honest, Caitlyn is not the best tank buster. It is a very, if you're squishy, you're dead. You're not tank busting. The Malphite as well, just trying to layer up that beefiness in the front line. This gives me a lot of hope that Orbit Gaming are gonna throw down pretty heavily in that mid lane. Last time it was an Ari. As much as I love Ari, I don't want to see it here. I want to see more raw firepower, maybe even that way into the mid to late.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am glad to see Fate is going for a more traditional comp this time. There is a slight variation here with the Volibear. It's not unheard of, and it's definitely a lot more stock standard than the Hui APC is. So I think it's going to be a much better comp and easier to identify your win conditions comp than you got last game. Silas is being taken off the board, so we won't see that. And I'm not too upset about that. I think that there's some better picks out there for the mid lane. And again, I'm hoping there's not an Ari either. I think it's a great pick, but not something that I want to see twice in a row. A Hui wouldn't be bad in the mid lane. Obviously, Azir's band Ziggs actually would not be a bad pick here. It gives you a lot of tower taking potential, a lot of siege power with the Caitlyn, and it can dish out a lot of damage, even outside of those scenarios.
Well, the ban of the Milio by Orbit does signal that they are kind of focusing into that bot side, which I really do appreciate, especially if you are running the likes of a Caitlyn. Don't want to allow that healing to come through, ability to disengage and be able to kind of just back away very cleanly. The Gragas ban, though, saying that could be an issue even with a Malphite on the map, saying, okay, just take that one away, leave it just fine. This still leaves a decent amount for Orbit to kind of play around, and I mean, I think both teams did get enough of what they wanted here in the second round of bans.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see when these comps get rounded out. I'm curious to see what they decide to go with here, and they're gonna go with the Renata Glask, a very good counter engage style champion, right? It has the ultimate that makes you fight each other. I love that. And this comp on the side of Fate wants to go in with the Akali and the Volibear and the Zeri. There's a lot of damage there, but there's also a lot of going in that the Renata's just gonna be like, no, I can handshake you away. I can throw my ult out. You're just not going to be able to get on top of this Caitlyn, and then you can follow that up with a Vi and Malphite ult.
So much behind it with that hostile takeover, but the Akali looking for the flanks. This is Fate playing very close to the chest here. If that Janna is locked in, it is okay. I
It's a strong solo queue pick. I will give them that. It is
yeah.
an excellent solo queue pick. I mean, the amount of heals and shields you can put out with this champion is absolutely insane. And they did tick down the damage in the nerfs a few patches ago, but there's a reason it's not in competitive. It is
Yep.
overly squishy and it's a very singular style of champion.
Oh, and not just that, that's a Leah hover and lock in. This is one of the premier counter picks to just about any dash champion. Honestly, looking down the row, Orbit Gaming coming out with another strong draft. Whoever is drafting for them, I give you a lot of credit. You guys, listen. Some of these leagues can get messy. Some of these leagues can have very messy drafts. Things get messy, and the synergy between champions just doesn't feel there. I give you a lot of credit. Your comp, it feels pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the drafts from last week to this week, um, one draft sticking out in particular from last week, that Seraphine draft, I was not a huge fan of. But coming through and seeing these two drafts gives me a lot more confidence in this team, and especially after watching last game, I am hugely favoring Orbital Astral, Orbit Gaming Astral in this series right now, just based off of this comp here. I mean, you have a Vi, you have a Malphite, and you have a Renata. That's going to stop a lot of the engage and gives you a lot of re-engage potential after the other team engages that you just don't get from the side of Fate. It goes in, and a lot of your champions are going in, and then you have a Janna. So
Yep.
it's kind of like a, what are you trying to do here? Nobody's sitting still inside of that Janna ult to get the healing off.
Mm.
You can get a little bit of a cheeky Janna ult if you flash ult and push someone into the team and stuff like that, but I just don't see this Janna working, and it's great solo queue. We'll see how it goes, obviously, in this match because we can talk all we want, but it's all in on when it comes down to the Rift.
Yeah, it feels like Fate have left Fate to their mechanical hands here. These feel like very outplayed champions, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, because Orbit Gaming Astro are one game away from securing their first series win here in the Infinity League. Of course, we'll let them try and get things under control, and we'll go to a quick break to catch our breath. Please don't go anywhere. The Infinity League will continue in just a bit. And we are here with game number 2. You can already see the players on the rift ready to go. And honestly, Astral, they are looking strong. Their composition feels a lot and very, very cohesive. But Fate, leaving it up to Fate. If they win their lanes, these are all champions that can pretty much dominate the rift on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were talking about it during the break a little bit. It's a hands check comp, right? You have Fall on Akali, uh, you have Aatrox in the top side, and then you have a Janna, and it's going to be Tornado's Alley down in the bot lane. And if you can land enough of them and get enough poke from the Zeri onto the Renata and the Caitlyn, you can start to win out that lane. But it's going to be a very, very rough early laning phase for them. And then this Malphite is, I mean, they took Comet, so they have variability if they're going to go AP or armor. But the comp from Astral is very cohesive. You have Malphite, you have Vi for excellent engage. You have Weaver's Wall to move around the map or cut off portions of the map from the side of Fate that they won't be able to access. And then a good team fight ADC from the Caitlyn and then Renata in case they get engaged upon. So it just feels a lot more cohesive coming through from them.
It's just, it's nice, right? Like, we like cohesion. We like seeing things that can be laid out kind of bare. At the same time, as much as that's said, things can get wrong very, very quickly. One of those, of course, is this top side, right? We did see Mustard, who here is labeled as Kein, had a phenomenal time. Dravoon was an amazing top lane situation, but Mustard did not have that such great time. This time around, I mean, it's an Aatrox. You should win out the lane, right? You should have power in that stance. And like you said, Dravoon with that Comet may or may not have that presence, but we'll see if Dravoon can kind of stack up like they did on the Renekton before.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see that Caitlyn and Renata got to lane a little bit early, so they did not have early push into this Zeri Janna, allowing for the side of Fate to get an early ward onto that Tribush, but spotting out Volibear from that early ward is actually going to be crucial for the side of Astral in tracking him and making sure they don't get caught out on any cheeky ganks coming through early on.
Little pieces here. Little pieces are starting to come together for them, and I really do appreciate it. At the same time, I'm wondering, this is also one of the few times I think we've seen a full clear out of both teams. I think we saw, what was it? It was Czark that did a level 3 gank with the J4, right? So,
yes,
a little bit of a difference. Not only that, it'll be the first time I think they actually meet on the same sides here, which will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see kind of a clash of the junglers, and you can see that Volibear has a slightly faster clear, allowing them to access Scuttle sooner. And because of Zeri having the early pressure, does mean that they have first roam if it's needed. Now, Czark is getting a huge trade onto Joker, though.
Yeah, that's unfortunate to say the least. Joker forced out of that jungle pathing, and surprising to say the least, now on the bot side, Grandma Steve having flash over the wall. That should be a flash follow, and that might be the kill. Yes, it is. First blood to Ozone. A second under the tower as Kraken now wins out. We said it was a hands check comp, and Fate have proven it so.
Absolutely. Great early roams by the side of the Akali to pick up first blood. That's exactly what they needed after getting chunked out early. Flash coming forward, trying to land that E, but a good response flash from Dìble to make sure that it doesn't land. Getting a kill onto the Zeri and the Akali early is exactly what this comp needed to make sure that they can start snowballing it, because if they didn't, they would just start to bleed out slowly like they did last game.
They would feel so bad, but the start is good. We appreciate it so far, and we get to see a little bit more behind them as well, giving them a little bit of time here. And Fate are going to be happy with this moment to breathe, but if that early stance had anything to say, it's going to be pretty hard later on the top side. Dravoon still down in the CS region, but I mean, you're a Malphite. That's to be expected. Main thing here, global objectives. Grubs are on the table, same with Dragon.
Absolutely, and you can see an early Avarice Blade coming out from the side of Joker, trying to cut down on the healing that this Volibear will get in these early skirmishes. as Volibear is actually quite good at taking these grubs with his passive and his E. You can see them starting to burn down and take all sorts of damage. What we should be seeing as we do see it now, Joker is moving to the bot side to take this early dragon. It is a cloud dragon, so not the strongest that you can have, but also at the same time, you're happy to see it now, so maybe you get a better soul later on.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're praying for right now, though. Kraken Slayer and Pizza the Cat trying to run interference here. And the most you'll do is annoy the crap out of them, but with the takes, it's even spacing, no deaths to occur, and I think Orbit Gaming are pretty happy with the fact that they didn't have to pay a price for that dragon.
Absolutely. They had a good roam timer by pushing in the wave. They were able to get over there, help their Vi in taking it. They didn't take too much damage from the Janna and the Zeri, so they're in a decent spot right now to make sure they can have a little bit more of a lane presence, considering they did hand over that early kill to the Zeri.
Now this is going to be the challenge, right? This mid lane O-zone. With one kill up, already building into that Leandri's if you so wish. Top side, though. Dravoon says, yo, you messed up. Oh, the flash out. Now flash to follow. Dravoon is not going to get out alive, but it is going to be the 1v1 falling both ways. And, I mean, that was a little bit unexpected, but, again, Mustard, not in the fairest of trades up there.
No, and I really like that flash follow from Dravoon, forcing Mustard to have to TP back to lane to not lose any CS, because it was actually pushing into his tower and going to be bouncing, so he needed to be there to not lose anything. And Dravoon gets to walk and save his TP for a potential TP play later on, or if he wants to take a highly aggressive trade a lot of his health, and then back and TP in, that is also an option for him. So I really like that, yes, he gave over that kill, but he gets an item, a really good item in that Bramble Vest to start to combat this Aatrox and the amount of healing that he's going to get, as well as this Volibear, because if this Volibear decides to gank, he's going to get reduced healing as well. I mean, this is a huge swing, not something that Aatrox should be having to deal with, but having to deal with it nonetheless. Excellent play by Dravoon to force this kind of play from happening.
At the same time, the damage has still been done. Take a look at that CS discrepancy right now. We are seeing a 2k lead occur with a majority share. Feels like in that top side, you can already see 800, even though it was a trade between two. Inside the jungle, it's only about 100, but in the mid lane, it's another 500 piece, and in the bot lane, about 700. At 8 minutes, that is a ridiculous gold lead to sling around here, and that is going to carry the rest of Fate pretty far forward, in my opinion. So see how that falls away. Mustard, though, coming back with the Brutalizer. Happy to say the least. Junglers hoping to get in on the mix. They've done a clear or two, but at the current moment, they're just kind of chilling out. Nowhere else really to go.
Absolutely. I mean, and you mentioned it, that 700 gold difference is a component or not, right? You can look at some of these early items, and those are massive power spikes that come through that you may or may not have, and that little bit of damage or tankiness could spell the difference between getting the kill or surviving a gank. And making sure that they can have something like that happen, as it looks like Dravoon took another early back, a little cheeky recall again, picking up 2 ruby crystals, really leaning into this tank Malphite, just taking the Comet for poke with his Q. I like what he's doing and how he's playing this. I think it's the proper way to play Malphite into a matchup like this. You just go full tank, you try to withstand it as much as possible, know that you're going to be down on CS, there's nothing you can do about it, and that you're going to be pushed in, but you're just going to get tankier, faster. Tank items are cheaper than the damage items, and you're just going to scale with him even though you're down on CS.
Dibble, dibble, dibble. You try and flash, but there's only so much you can do. You are squishy. That's just going to be an easy pickup, right? We talked about this matchup, the O-Zone Akali. Yes, if you get into mid to late without any kills, it's a problem, but it snowballs so quickly, and it's so frustrating to see. The fact that there was a push with almost no response on the bot side, Orbit Gaming a little bit behind the curve there. Now a chance in the top side. an attempt as the World Ender is popped, and that's going to be considered a dub. Czark, though, coming in with a little bit of a re-engage, and honestly, I don't know if they really want this. Both of them trying to get out of town, so Orbit Gaming are going to get under the tower. Czark, though, might be in the wrong spot here, flashing away as it's the flash forward. Joker almost getting the kill. One more second will do it, and I don't think it's going to happen. You have to turn. Czark lives, and that's going to be mustard to swallow up the rest of the enemies. One more Q should do it. Dravoon is able to stay away, but it's still a death of back. I can't believe that happened. Now on the bot side, Grandma Steve gonna win out. I don't know what's going on as Pag is gonna run trying to run interference. A final E for Cat will win out, but man, a dance of death on top and bot.
Yeah, absolutely great flash from Pizza the Cat to avoid the netting from Caitlyn. I mean, that is a hand check skill if I've ever seen one. But you can see on the top side, just not quite getting the kill onto Czark, managed to allow the kill from Mustard to go on. Well, allowed Mustard to get the kill onto Vi, and now allowing them to get the 6 grubs. This is just pure tempo now in favor of Fate.
It just feels really, really good for them. And this is a team that we said knows their stuff. In solo queue, they are technically higher rated. They are very, very strong mechanically. And this felt like a very solo queue-esque comp, right? And what do solo queue players know best? How to snowball on their own, right? They know what to do in that sense. And I do expect to see that snowball come through and then the team coordination to follow behind, right? Rotating for some of these objectives, making sure that they're ready to go for these fights. Dragon is now started up by the side of Orbit Gaming. Of course, at this time, it's going to be contested. Czark happy to roll in. Nice little shove there as Dìble might be the sacrificial play here. You don't really have any safety. Dragon is smited away, but Joker, you're going to pay that price once again. No chance to follow through. Kraken Slayer over the wall. How much more are you going to get? The ocean roars to life, but right now the ocean is about to swallow a few more players down. Goes Grandma Steve, and Pag is going to survive. Picks up an extra on the back end, but honestly, it's a small price to pay.
Absolutely. I mean, they did get the dragon, which is huge, delays the game even longer. It is a mountain dragon, leading to now an ocean soul. So we like to, if you're the fan of Astral, you like to see that, because it will give you more time to scale into this matchup and allows you to maybe survive some of the poke that might be coming through from this Janna, from this Zeri. But and that's only if they can pick up these next 2 dragons, right? They did manage to pick up a mountain dragon, so that is going to give them a little bit of extra takiness, which the Vi and the Malphite are really going to love. It looks like we have a collapse coming through here. I'm liking this.
It's just that easy, and Flasher style right there, Flasher style. I was going to say it was very much worth. You have Flash, that way you can get back out later, but losing Flash on Malphite actually feels pretty bad.
I understand why he flashed there. They weren't sure about the kill going through, and if the Aatrox does manage to actually land his sweet spot Q3 there, he's going to get a massive amount of healing back. Yeah, it's going to be mitigated a little bit, but making sure to flash out of that just guarantees that there's less healing in case they need to continue the fight for the little bit longer that they're going to need to do it. So I don't mind it. It's just more of a kill guarantee than anything.
All right, I'll let you have that one. I'll let you have that one. I'm just like, oh boy, I'm not sure about that one. Of course, we'll see how well it plays out. Right now, that was a play on the top side. Grandma Steve on the bot, though. He's getting chunked out very heavily, and Czark is more than ready to bring a fight in. You can see Joker looking to try and help out, and if this is just one, it might actually be a dub. Look at that. It's just an auto kill, though. One more slap will do it. Can they turn it around? No, the Caitlyn is just dead. With the Monsoon, an aggressive one at that. It sections off Joker, who under the tower is going to have no quarter. Once again, Fate execute a solid bot lane dive.
Absolutely. Excellent dive between the towers. Even for the fact that Joker was there, they got Grandma Steve so low that tower right off the bat. Yeah, it ticked over, so they didn't get that last plate of gold, but they got the rest of the plates, so they missed out on 1 plate of gold there. They got the tower. Absolutely huge swing of play there into their favor. Even more, it looks like we're at a 7,000 gold lead here at just 14 and a half minutes. We said that last time it was Astral's game to lose. Right now, yeah, it's a solo queue style comp, but it is very much in the hands of Fate for them to lose it.
I'm enjoying this a lot. Honestly, this is looking like a game 3, right? Like, if this was the Fate If this was Fate game number 1, it would have looked a 2-0, right? Just very strong, very confident, coming out on top. But maybe they were just experimenting, right? Saying, hey, we just wanted to test stuff out. At the current moment, though, they are in control. Next thing to take control of, the Dragons. Of all things that could get a team back in, an Ocean Soul would be pretty dang nice to play with. For Astral, though, I'm not sure how much control they're going to have over the next Drake. This is going to be Herald going down, and it will give a lot of opportunity to the rest of the map. Joker wandering in. Not sure you like this. Rest of the team is trying to get away, but I mean, you can only flash so far. Ozone gets into the mix, and Joker is annihilated. Another shuriken lands. 5-point strike to be thrown out. Stones are unraveled, but Dìble can only deny the further chase.
Yeah, absolutely. And I liked that PAG didn't throw their ult there, knowing that there wasn't going to be any follow-up on it, so holding that for the potential dragon fight that's coming up in a minute is a much more impactful timing for their ultimate than just the escape there. So good job by them. Yeah, the kill went over, the kill onto Joker was not something that you want because they are going to be able to get the Herald, but saving that ultimate is going to be huge for the potential dragon fight coming up here in just a few minutes. Or just a minute, less than a minute now.
Yeah, this is Dravoon not having a good time. Gets a nice ult under the tower, might only trade one, which you do, but this is the follow-up that you were hoping for. Joker able to draw the flash out of Pizza the Cat, and that I don't think it's going to be much more, but hey, at least the top side's doing okay, right? Dravoon was the one that kind of carried the team before, and this time around, I mean, on a Malphite, you're going to try and do what you can.
Yeah, and that was a really good two-man ult there onto the Aatrox and the Janna to stop a lot of the damage that was going to come through on the Aatrox and force it to be a one-for-one, right? Definitely something that you need to look for as that Malphite there, because you're not going to live there. You already know that, but managing to get that one-for-one actually changes a lot of what you're trying to do now on the bottom side of the map. Unfortunately, because they are just stronger, Fate, Astral does have to back off of this dragon. Giving one over to the side of Fate is okay. You can give one or two and let yourself scale up a little bit more, but you can't give over the third or the fourth because then it's just game over.
It's just a problem to be had, and honestly, it might be a problem that's out of the hands of Orbit Gaming. Look at this, because Czark and Pizza the Cat on a roaming mission. You know Dìble is here, no one else to help, and there's no way you are out. A quick slap, a stun, a knock-up, and a punch. It is easy for them. They make it look clinical. Fate get a dive under the tower once again.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a very good dive by them. They have Herald here. I don't know if you need to Herald here. So the issue with heralding this early for this tower here is, yes, you could potentially get the inhib turret, right? They're going to drive it in, get a lot of damage off on it. My issue with it is if you open this up and take inhib too early, you're just feeding the other team gold, and you can't really pressure it effectively. And it looks like that's what they're kind of trying to do here. Yes, you're going to have pretty much pressure continuously in this lane now, but there's still a mid lane turret, there's still a top lane turret. Get that standing gold instead, so you can open up the top side of the map for the Baron that's about to start spawning.
Make a little bit of moves and allow yourself the opportunity to create some space for yourselves and get the extra buffs that you need. And honestly, wholly impressed with what Fate are throwing down here. And for Orbit Gaming, I mean, where do you go from here? What are you looking to try and play at? Because there's only so many options, right? Dìble has been taken down to pieces, 0-3-0. Joker has not had a fantastic game, 0-4-2. I mean, bot lane as well. Like, all the lanes that were holding out before felt great. Where do they go from here with their own composition?
You have to sit back and scale and hope that you can scale, right? They have a very good front-to-back team fight comp that can deny a lot of what Fate is trying to do. You just have to get to that point in the game. We haven't seen a proper 5v5 yet. And I think if we do get to that point, it might be closer. I'm saying this is pure hopium here, right? You're hoping that it's closer than what it looks like. It is a 10,000 gold lead in favor of Fate, so you're sitting back. You're hoping to scale a little bit more, because the later on into this game we get, the less the gold lead matters, and that's what at what point you're trying to get to right now. Is Dravoon's caught out, loses half his more than half his health from a combo from
oh
Mustard.
Gosh.
And there goes the turret, and it looks like Dravoon's probably going to die here as well.
Yeah, this is happening on this side of the map, and then
Oh,
Akali on the other is just having a ball, right? Like this is crazy action here. It will be Ozone that is gonna finally go down. Final punch to be had, but Dravoon may pay the price as well as Czark is gonna dive. This is the easiest dive of their life. Kill for kill, blow for blow, but it's still gonna be a win for Fate as they take 2 versus 1.
yeah, absolutely. They get the mid tower, they get the top towers, and it's just a slow stranglehold at this point. They may not even need Baron to end this game with just how far ahead they are. I would hope that they peel off this turret and then start to place Vision, grab Baron, and end from there. I think that's the stronger play. But they do have a lot of tools at their disposal to force the fight if they need to.
They have just about everything that they need. Let's see what they can do here. Who is going to come out with the next kill? That is my question, right? Fate have been playing this one pretty close to the chest. They say, do whatever you want to, but just don't lose yourself in the action. And I mean, honestly, it's been very, very impressive. Ozone at 5-1-1, and Czark at 4-1-5. And they're just clearing things out, right? Like, there is no rush for this composition. It feels like, I know you were talking about, that gold lead, for the side of Orbit Gaming. They're like, yo, please just don't end in the next, like, 20 minutes, maybe. If we can get to, like, 40, 45 minutes, we'll be fine.
Yeah,
That's
exactly the point.
It's a long call for sure.
And it absolutely is. You have to kind of just stall out to that point in the game, and then you have a slight chance at winning. It's still not great because you need to get to full build. They're going to be at full build well before you are, and you just hope that they make a few mistakes. You're able to pick off a few people like you did earlier on the Akali. Unfortunately, Joker did take that kill instead of letting the ultimate from Caitlyn take it. So it's little things like this as well, right? You need your damage healers to get damage items. And if you're taking gold from them in that sense, they're not going to get there as soon as they need to. And it's going to be really rough for them.
With this dragon now coming up here, Fate already moving to secure it as easily as possible. The wards over here on Baron are big, but this is a chance. This is going to be Mustard already having that shield up. Is now going to go into the World Ender. And again, it's just taking what gold you can to be had. It's a quick kill onto the Aatrox. The dragon is going to go down, though. And do they look for anything further? It doesn't look like it because the waves are not in their favor. So Astral, after getting that kill, have to back away again.
Yeah, a little bit of an unfortunate timing there. Not really on the same page of which ult to use first, as you saw the Vi ult come through as well as Dravoon's Malphite ult as well. So they were layered on top of each other, and because of how those interact, you're not really getting any extra CC timing off of it. So a little bit unfortunate there. They did still manage to grab the kill, but something that does need to be cleaned up if they're going to continue these fights later on into the game.
Only so much you can hope for. It's going to look better and better, and Mustard might finally have a little bit of help. We'll see. 3-4-0 on their own, right?
They're doing a little bit better this game. They're not in as bad of a position as they were last game. Obviously, the game was pretty much over for them last game, but it's all in, can Astral stall out this game long enough by making those picks onto the side lanes that they did now these past 2 times? Yeah, they gave up a dragon. Yes, they gave up 2 towers for it and a kill, but overall, they're getting gold around the map. And here's another one that's potentially happening. A huge ultimate from Czark just to get out is something that you want to be forcing from the side of Astral.
Get the abilities, get the summoner spells if you can, and I mean, it feels great. Take a look at the massive split that's occurring as well. It's allowing for Pag to be caught. Fate are now pushing all lanes in, ensuring the top and bot waves are prepped for this upcoming Baron. And I mean, that's going to force the rest of Astral to go into a do or die situation. It'll be Joker to see if he can get the smite down. Pink ward goes down, showing everyone off. And surprisingly, Fate opt not to challenge. They're just allowing the likes of Mustard to get this inhibitor. You look at the top side fight, or that bot side fight, and it's just like, yeah, you already get the inhibitor. It's fine. Now, Mustard going into that World Ender form is now going to get jumped on by 2, but a flash away from that unstoppable force means you still pick up the kill.
Healing.
Now Mustard says, yo, I am the big carry here. The rest of my team is going to push down mid. What a blow and a half.
And look at just the amount of healing that came through from Mustard. He was at like a quarter HP and jumped up above half with that Q3 onto the Talia. I mean, that is huge, and that's exactly what they were trying to avoid early on in the game with that flash away from Dravoon. And it's just, it seems like it's a little bit of a done and dusted game here. Dravoon trying his best to keep his team alive, but it's just, it's a slow burn.
That slow burn about to be accelerated here. Another kill comes through as Grandma Steve goes down. Topside inhibitor will fall, and I think that's all they're going to take right now. Every inhibitor is down. At that point, double super minions and then some will be crawling into the base, and Orbit Gaming with the champions they have, I'm not sure they're going to like trying to clear out all of those minions.
No, absolutely not. That is one thing that this comp is lacking, is wave clear. Talia is decent, but not great at it. She does have her rock throwing that she can hit on the back line, but none of them are really great at killing off those super minions. And they have 3 inhibs down. They really just have to push out these waves and turtle for the next 5 minutes after this Baron goes down and hope that they can survive long enough, maybe take a lucky fight, get a lucky pick around the dragon to force soul point for them and stall it out more, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Nope. Fate say you finish the game pretty quickly too. We're going to do the same. Baron down to about 5.5 again. It's just everyone on the side of Fate saying we want a piece of the pie. Joker going to be annihilated by Ozone. Ozone flipping through, resetting off that back end, and with the Baron going down, it's 5 members strong. Fate had just about everything in the back pocket to close out this game.
Absolutely. And it's the stranglehold of the waves being pushed in with Baron. You can see Akali walking in topside with him. Are they going to try to catch them out here? A Malphite ult coming through. Very good usage of the rocks as well. Does manage to get the shutdown on him, but they have volley pushing it on the other side. They're kind of getting collapsed on across the map here.
Yeah, there's not much else you can do. It's just clean up through. Triple for Kraken Slayer without a Kraken Slayer in sight. And that'll be the finish. Fate Esports battle back in a convincing and dominating game number 2.
Absolutely. Well played by Fate. Very convincing. We had our concerns about the comp with the terms of it being a kind of solo queue-esque comp, but they played it out very well. They managed to make sure that they get ahead when they needed to and stay ahead, right? Because that is one thing with solo queue, is it's very easy to throw a lead, and they managed to keep themselves ahead throughout the game and take the objectives, force when they needed to, give up when they shouldn't, and had some really excellent dives on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, they just took control very nicely, and we're seeing the strengths of both teams, right? If the side of Ori Gaming Astral are given a lead, they are hoping to hold it very well. For the side of Fate, hands check them all day along and keep doing it. We are going into a game number 3 here with the Infinity League on Crunch Time GG. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back for game 3. And we are back, ready to go for game number 3. I mean, the teams wasted no time once again, and it looks like we actually have another side swap, right? Fate, once again, on that red side orbit, did choose to go on that blue, and I mean, we have a lot more to talk about, right? This was a drastically different game, too. We've seen the strengths of both teams, but I hate to say it, there are points where raw hands check can overwhelm just about any other team. So I'm very, very curious to see how this game turns about. So far, the bans are pretty much the exact same. We are seeing that Fizz and the Karma. On the flip, again, it is that safe ban away of the Renekton. And now the Volibear to be banned away. I think that's very appropriate. Once again, we saw the likes of Joker play, or not Joker, Czark play that very, very well.
Yeah, absolutely. He played an excellent Volibear game, really made sure that this Vi was stuffed everywhere that they tried to go. So, Smolder being banned again, and they're defaulting back to the Senna pick. I think that was a very strong pick for them. I really like it. I think they played it very well. Now let's see, how does Fate draft a comp like last game, because they are very much a hands check type of team, it seems like. And if they can hands check Astral this game too, it feels like they're going to win. But if they draft a comp like game one, I feel it's going to go back into Astral's favor. But we're going to see here's the man. They want to go for the
Oh.
Callista. Now, Callista can be paired with a lot of different champions. I'm hoping for something like a Renata. I think it's just an overall very strong duo. And looks like they're going to go for a more traditional Nautilus pick. Very strong dual engage there, or just safety for the Nautilus. So I'm excited to
Mhm.
see what they decide to go with to round out the rest of that comp.
Yeah, this is gonna be very just front and center, it feels like, right? This is very on the nose, like, yeah, you're gonna have to play smart. I I honestly feel like you had to pick the Tom Kenshire. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
only one that can really come about. If you don't, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Hate saying that, but that's just unfortunately the way it turns out. You pick the Senna, you kind of put yourself in this hole. Okay, I like this. Bring it on,
I like
Dravoon.
this a lot.
Lock it in. Please lock that in.
It's I love this, right? I mean, now you're throwing down the gauntlet, right? He played an excellent game of Renekton as a carry in game one. He played an almost perfect tank game in game two. Yeah, he died a lot, but that's because his team was behind, and he absolutely, I feel, dominated that lane against the Aatrox in a way that shouldn't have happened. Now pairing the Senna and the TK, you can go for the fasting Senna or you can go for the farming Senna. And either way, it's going to add a lot of power to that bot side of the map in terms of the safety once you hit level 6. So we'll see how they decide to
Oh.
play that out. As another hands check champion in Yone, I'm highly excited for this game 3.
It's never ending, Ice. It is just, it's an identification, right? I like it. It's, hey,
It
it
is.
feels like we can get away with a lot of stuff here, and we're gonna keep trying it. That's all they're really saying. Now, is that actually gonna go top lane? That's yet to be seen. I'm sure there are ways that you can flex into the mid, depending, because honestly, Ozone had an amazing time on the Akali. I would not doubt it. Surprising enough, though, Fate go ahead and give a lot of respect over to that Talia, and I think understanding that the Talia could have been a very rough answer, it's going to be banned away. Just take it off the board.
Yeah, absolutely, right? The Talia was not a bad pick, I think, and you could see glimpses of where it was going to be strong, but it just wasn't ahead enough, and the Akali got getting that first blood and then was able to snowball. Didn't give the Talia enough time to really become a relevant issue for the side of Astral. J4 being taken off the table, I think is smart to make sure that they don't get that pick. It was very strong in game one with the amount of ganking that it was putting out in the early game. It didn't really amount to anything, but it can still be a very big nuisance in if especially with a team with the Yone and the Callista. And they're still afraid of that Gragas, which is very interesting. Um, I didn't see a big Gragas game from the side of Astral, but if it's a big comfort, I can see why they're banning it away in this second round. Just making sure you don't really like handing over comfort in leagues like this because yeah, it may not be meta, but comfort can sometimes trump meta, and we saw that last game,
Yep.
hands down.
Yeah, that's also a heavy investment as well. The Kali ban coming out here, a lot of respect handed both ways, and it's uh, it's gonna be a big one because I know you banned the Akali, but that felt a little bit more answerable. This time around, of course, it is gonna be that counter pick coming out against you. The Lily, Okay, another heavy snowball champion if given the opportunity. Things are starting to keep rolling. Fate bringing in a lot of high power, high pressure champions that, if given a single kill, even in a 1-1 state, can be very monumental.
Absolutely. And this Lilia actually is very good into the likes of the Tom Kench because she's considered a tank buster because of how much just dots she can put out and her Q just being up constantly. So a lot of movability around the map for the side of Fate Esports. You have Lilia can move around with her Qs, get a lot of speed ups. Yone dashes around to fight a little bit. Callista, I mean, jumps anybody. So I'm excited to see the style of comp that they rounded out with, as Xin Zhao is picked up on the other side, really stopping a lot of what Fate wants to do with this Callista. Can get in the middle of a fight, break it up, and be invulnerable to anything outside of his ultimate. So I like this pick. It's a very strong pick and can really duel a lot of these champions early. And
The
also is a
Oriana.
very good ball delivery system.
Yeah, the Oriana to round it out. I know a lot of people like Oriana. I personally dislike it a lot of the time. I understand why it's there and it's a big power pick. It just feels very safe, right? It feels like that neutral staple that you just lay in there, and it can be punishable, right? In this situation, the Sana that was banned out, I believe in game number 1, is now locked in into that mid lane, and this is how you deal with it, right? Oriana is great overall, but has zero, I would say, amazing like power, right? Like it's an all around utility pick. Good offense, good defense, good utility. Nothing really spikes out. You can punish that by bringing a heavy, heavy hitter into the mid lane if Shisana's allowed to carry. Oriana's kind of in the woods there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so a lot of what Orion is a very safe utility mid laner that can deal out a decent amount of damage with her ultimate and her QW. But when you get the likes of Tristana in, you're basically always under pressure. Anytime that Tristana's W is up and she's in range, she's gonna jump on you and you can't match that kind of damage because if Tristana can get her WEQ combo off and just actually get the four shots onto her bomb and blow it up on top of you, you're losing a decent chunk of your health without even trying. So I'm very excited for this Tristana, and it's going to be on the side of Astral. Can they punish this Tristana if it goes too far and Xin Zhao is around? Because that's what's going to have to happen.
I think they have their work lined out for them. Of course, both teams still leaning into their own favorable positions. A very nice team oriented macro game kind of pick for Orbit Gaming. And then on the flip, a lot of carry threats that can still come together as a nasty wombo combo for Fate. Right now, it is all down to game 3. To see who comes out on top, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more information. And of course, with the finale to the series. And here we go. It is going to be the final game here tonight, whether teams like it or not. And it's going to be a tough one. The battle ahead for Ori Gaming. Game number 2 did not look pretty to them. Fate, of course, looked monstrous in their stride across the rift. And this time around, it's going to be another test, right? We see Ozone on another fun champion. It is going to be that Tristana in the top side. It is Mustard on that Yone. A couple more carry champions that this time, Orbit Gaming have to figure out a way to kind of nullify that early aggression.
Absolutely. And I mean, looking at both sides, these are much more traditional comps, right? You have an Orianna, you have some good ball delivery in both the Aatrox and the Xin Zhao. And on the other side, Yone is not unheard of in the top lane, most notably brought out by Zeus from T1. Lilia is a little bit lower down in the meta, but still not unheard of. Tristana, very, very strong mid laner as a counterpick in some of these more safe control mages. And Kalista Nautilus is just a tried and true bot lane duo that has always done well whenever Kalista's strong, like she is right now. So I'm excited for what's going to happen as in the top lane, it is really on Mustard to have a good game versus Dravoon. In the past 2 games, he really struggled, even though he was in the carry side of it, just didn't do as well. There's an early trade happening on the bot side.
Oh man, flash, 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 and everyone's kind of in that pickle. Kraken Slayer, though, getting chunked out here as Pag was able to run interference, and honestly, Pag being able to run that interference feels great because now take a look at who's roaming down. Joker may be able to get that chance roaming up, but where you going, Joker? You're going the long way around where they're still fighting in the middle of the wave, and now it's finally being spotted at level 2. Maybe you get Pizza the Cat as well. Kraken Slayer realizing things are dire, and that might work, but because you waited so long, it looks like you have lost your ADC still, though. 2 for 1 in favor of Orbit Gaming. I personally didn't like the methods, but the methods definitely worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see that it is a fasting Senna, so missing out on this CS isn't terrible for her. Yeah, you're going to miss out on some soul stacks, as we can see Lilia doing what any good jungler would do, right? Immediately going in for that invade once Xin Zhao showed on the bot side of the map. Now, TK did need to back there because of how low he was. Overall, I don't think that was a bad play. Yeah, they lost the Senna and gave a kill over to the Kalista, but almost there was 1 CS taken on that entire lane since we got started. So it looks like we have a pause coming out. We had a DC from the top laner Dravoon. Hopefully we can get that sorted out quickly as we are waiting for that. A little bit of a breakdown right now. It looks like there's been some trading in the mid lane as there's no pots left for either mid laner. And we can see that there's going to be a meeting of the junglers as Xin Zhao immediately recalled and headed to his top side to try to defend it as Lilia did go for her invade. So, I mean, we're already starting with fireworks. How do you feel about this right now, Orbital?
I'm enjoying it. Right, it did have to be spicy. We did talk about the fact that for Over Gaming, it did have to be a little bit on the nose, a little bit more forward facing, and you did have to play a little bit aggressive. So I think it's appropriate. I think it's okay, and I expect to see a lot more of that come out here as well. This jungle invade, as you were saying, I think will fall the way of fate if Ozone is allowed to kind of rotate over and help out, because Arc should be fine. But of course, we'll see how that plays out. I believe Dravoon was able to get back into the game. If they're able to actually, there we go. We are set to go. And I mean, the buff's already gone. So Joker, I mean, you are paying the price. You helped your bot lane out. Maybe not as much as you would have liked, but you got to kill. Now you got to get that CS back up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that they did get a kill in that. Otherwise, it'd kind of be all for naught. Now, TK also did a kill, so the thing with this kind of setup for the Senna TK with a fasting Senna, if you aren't familiar with it, is that the TK is going to be ramping up a lot faster since they are the ones that are going to be farming. So it is on them. It is a little bit harder because it is a Kalista that will start to stack up their Ren stacks, and it looks like we have a gank coming through by Joker on this top side. Really active.
Yeah. I love
as the red buff tick. I mean, I love that, right? He showed on the bot side, knew that his buff was taken, needed to make something happen, and Joker, Mustard overextending on this Yone, it is something that is a very hard champion to pilot, effectively in a matchup with the Aatrox.
It just feels good. Very nicely done. And maybe we get to see a little bit more out of them, right? Everything so far falling the way of Orbit Gaming. And now they're going to try and get mid as well. Dìble trying to look like a tasty jump in, baiting out that fight. But not really going to happen here. On the bot side, though, it's another question mark as Pag able to run interference. But the hook lands. Piece of the cat draws in the fight under the tower. But Grandma Steve allowed to live. And again, very nice job. First gank from Czark, not really working out.
Yeah, it was an excellent W from the TK to keep Czark from getting in on top of his Senna, really stifling that entire gank before it ever really could start. As, yeah, Pizza the Cat did get a hook onto him, but that was really it. They did get taken under tower, and they lost most of their health as a trade between top laners on the top side. It looks like Mustard is going to force the flash out of Dravoon, and is he going to be able to get away? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
I don't think so. I don't think there's another hop out. There is no flash available either. It's going to be death. And Orbit Gaming, they've learned from game number 2, right? They said, yo, if you want to play fast, we'll do that. Dravoon popping off here on the top side. Bot side, again, Grandma Steve and Pag just kind of holding their own in this fasting setup. As you said, this Tahm Kench setup, it feels good. Orbit Gaming, again, every lane except for mid, currently in a winning position.
Absolutely, and even mid is in a decent position. They did get a back off before this Tristana, so did have to burn the TP, but they did manage to get the tier and boot, so they do have pressure for these grubs to spawn. Now, Dravoon will have to walk up because he already did burn his TP, but this allows Joker to grab these grubs for free, as Lilia is going to be soloing Drag, as her bot lane is going to be catching the wave that they missed from that botched dive.
Yep. It just little things going every which way. Dragon, of course, being covered. And I mean, for Fate, is this really the worst thing to happen? We gotta ask, right? Is this actually the worst thing to occur? You could lose a couple kills. Yeah, the Xin Zhao's fed, but is it really that bad? Is this going to really hamper their entire game 3?
It does set them on a downward trajectory for sure. And that might seem like a cop-out answer, but it's all because you have a Yone, and this Yone has to be ahead. It's one of these picks that if it's not ahead, it's not going to do anything. It's a feast or famine, and I like what Czark is constantly doing, getting onto these Raptors and taking them from Xin Zhao. As you can see, just what this Tristana can do by getting on top of you and getting all those autos off. But because the top side is going so well, you really have to now hope that this Kalista can get ahead and stay ahead and execute some dives that they like what they had in game number 1. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to go, or in game 2, I don't think it'll go as well for them otherwise.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting. Shockwave going to land on 2, but it's really just a deterrent. But Joker still getting powered down, and that feels kind of bad. Of all the lanes to kind of lose out on, Joker loses out in that mid. World Ender on the top side, though, going to be a dance. Gonna be a little bit of a power bomb, as yeah, this top lane, it's getting messy right now. Ice, this is feeling good.
Yeah, if you're Astral right now, this is what you were hoping for. Dravoon has shown mastery over every champion that he's played in this series so far. He kept getting 1-for-1s or trading almost up in some of these instances where he was getting dove, especially on the Malphite, and then his Renekton was just, I don't think I've seen a cleaner Renekton game in a league like this. So I'm very happy to see just how well he's playing, because this is what you want if you're the side of Astral. Get this Aatrox ahead, get them scaling, especially above this Yone, who really was supposed to be the side lane threat that Fate had. And if you're losing this hard and opting into trades like this, you're not going to have a fun time this game.
Nope. You're just not going to enjoy it. Right now in the side lanes, even more action is occurring, as that's a flash out of Kraken Slayer, and Pizza the Cat looked like they were ready to have a bit of fun, but of course, with that drop down below, Joker really sacrificing a lot of that lane pressure in the jungle, but mid lane, Ozone drops the bomb on Dibbles. That sticky bomb is just too good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you expect to see coming out of a lane like that. Tristana has to be ahead, right? This is one of the main carries of the comp. You have Kalista and you have Tristana. Tristana's going to be great at taking these towers. It's basically a better Ziggs right now, but an AD variant almost. So Czark, because there's no Orianna, did try to make an invade. Didn't quite work out for them as Xin Zhao was there, but overall, I like the aggression that I'm seeing still, even though they're slightly behind, that they're still looking to make these kinds of plays. Because in game 1, they just weren't. They were kind of let it slow bleed out. So they've taken the confidence from game 2 and said, yeah, we're behind right now, but we can make plays happen even when we are behind.
Mm-hmm. And those plays will have to be made quite a few times on top of it, right? This is another jump in as Ozone is like, yo, let me repeat it again. You get the reset if you wish, but Joker's here to help out. Dawning Shadow is there, but a whip on the Shockwave means Fall gets out for free. Oh boy, there is no flash though. I said for free, it's not. It's payment with your life killing spree for Joker.
Absolutely, and that's because he did take that second W in, thinking that Joker may not have been there. Yeah, the Shockwave missed, but because Tristana took their reset W, didn't have another way to reset it because they didn't get the kill onto Dìble, kind of left them without any point of contention once the gank came through, as we see that, again, another kill going to the side of Aatrox in the top side. I mean, at this point, I don't really know what's going on in this top side.
It's just kind of it's one of those that you're just like, all right, it's kind of a rough time. However, Kraken Slayer showing off a little bit with the fancy feet, now drawing in an opportunity piece of the cat, looking to help out, and in comes the Lilia. The flash in, the body block for Grandma C, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough. There's the Devour to keep them safe, and that's the Tahm Kench Senna that you know and love.
Absolutely, and because they're so strong on this bot side and having that play forced by that gank forced by the side of Fate, this allowed Joker to get 6 grubs now for free. Dragon's not up to contest as well, so they're going to even be able to contest around this Dragon that's in 30 seconds if they can get to the bot side in time and get their recalls off.
That just feels good for the side of Pag. Like you're enjoying yourself, right? That was a hero play if I've ever seen one. But I do agree the recalls do have to come through. Dragon is now coming up in just a bit, but 6 grubs in the hands of Orbit Gaming, and we talked about grubs back in game 1. We haven't really seen them utilized a whole lot, right? We saw some fights here and there, but one of the big things is I always say grubs are a bait, right? Like you don't actually get that much value unless you're pushing, unless you're winning. Well, hey, you got a big winning top side. I mean, Dravoon's going to use that to peak efficiency, given the opportunity, and Mustard is just not going to enjoy it. So now you can actually allocate 4 players down to this bot side, and I mean, Dìble has to play a little bit further back, but I think Orbit Gaming more than happy to position for this Drake.
Now, you do have to keep stock of ultimates right now. There is no ultimate on the Nautilus or the Tahm Kench. The Dawning Shadows from Senna is available as a Knot Hook does miss here.
Oh boy. Fall? Oh, the knockback. The Crescent Guard actually knocked Fall away, so it's going to be safe, but the TP coming in here. Fate's Call is going to keep you safe, but that is going to be the massive Dravoon saying, yo, y'all forgot about me. A rampage for Dravoon as it's 2 dead and Dragon to Orbit Gaming.
I mean, that's exactly what you want to happen. He had the TP for that play exactly. And with that first Nautilus hook missing and then the force coming through from the rest of the squad, especially by Tristana, it really just set the tone of the rest of the fight because they blew their entire load onto the Orianna and then there was nothing else left to kill her because there was nobody else there. They all got pushed away by the side of Xin Zhao.
Crazy, crazy stuff. And I mean, even with that changeup, it's still like, holy crap, Orbit Gaming Astral looking powerful. And I like this lane allocation, right? Dravoon didn't want to walk all the way top, so Dìble's like, okay, I'll help you out. I'll hold top. And I mean, it's not even that difficult. Yeah, Ozone is not going to, beat Dravoon, but you still got to push in. Orbit Gaming doing a very nice job. Yes, you're sacrificing a little bit more of Joker's pathing and clear, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. So overall, big dubs around. Mountain Dragon, Mountain Soul looming to the cat. No, and Czark saying, we're going to get something. There is no Crescent Guard. This is the aggression that we know we needed to see. Czark gets a massive shutdown.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we needed to see by the side of Fate to come back into this game. And it was a big shutdown on a key member. It was good that Nautilus didn't take it so that this Lilia could kind of start to snowball back into this game a little bit as Dìble getting flash hooked right here. I think this is a kill.
Nope. That is now
Oh.
another shockwave that is just barely landing. And honestly, out of everything that's happened for Orbit Game, I'm actually most worried about this mid lane. I said I was scared about the Orianna just in general, but Dìble, quite honestly, doesn't look comfortable on the champion, right? Like, there are some shockwaves that are missing that I'm a little bit worried, but that's a way to turn it around. It's still going to be a 1-for-1 trade, but Dìble being able to grab a kill.
I mean, and I get what they're trying to do. I don't like it. I think that's way too over-aggressing. There was no minion wave. There was nothing really happening for them across the map. So getting this kill, you've just opened up the rest of Astral to flex their muscles around the map because there's no more mid laner, and they get to now take Herald pretty much for free because it looks like Aatrox might be diving topside.
Diving or sleeping, I'm not too sure which. That's gonna be Mustard to flash away out of harm's way. And I mean, again, Joker just running interference feels great. Like, Joker has been very, very impactful and very smart about it for 1 and 2, but getting slowed here is actually quite dangerous. We're starting to see Fate kind of bounce away and say, we can't really wait for things to come our way. We're gonna grab every little scrap and piece that we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see that they left Kalista down bot side, so Kalista's probably gonna get this turret, but the over-aggression on the top side may actually play in favor of Astral, as they're going to get on top of Tristana here and take them out.
Oh, no.
This is kind of, yeah, you get the turret bot side, but you're losing everything else across the map.
Yeah, this is Orbit Gaming collapsing on Fate when they're just poking inside of the beehive, right? That was one that they thought they had it, and this attempt to constantly get little bits and pieces, it will eventually backfire, and that is one of those moments. Yes, you were able to get tower on the bot side, but that's only going to negate a slight amount of the gold, right? Kraken Slayer on this Kalista, you also need a strong start. Kalista really pops off mid to late. It feels like whenever you get a lot of those spears, whenever you're able to bounce around and you get to use those spears early game to kind of buffer your way through the mid, you haven't had that sort of success, right? Grandma Steve and Pag still feel very, very strong, and you take a look at Joker and Dravoon. If Kraken Slayer gets locked down, you're just gone, right? Like, you're blown up. So that tower is going to feel nice, and it'll allow Kraken Slayer and Pizza to start roaming out. Still need to see a bit more.
Absolutely. I love what they're doing from Astral to play around this map. Are we going to see anything happen here? As we see a TP to just say, nope, you're not going to make any play here.
Oh.
Dravoon just too strong.
Oh, well, here's the difference. It's actually a collapsed Kraken Slayer, and Pieces of Cat we're looking for. We're going to get another force fight, and Dravoon's more than happy to take it. Right now, in the middle of the fight, is ignited, but that's going to be the slow, and then going to be that little bit of a Seeker. That's going to be Mustard to find the kill. What a turnaround here. Surprising ult, but the turnaround damage is there. Czark taken quite low. Rest of the team has to run. Pieces of Cat, we're going to run interference and sacrifice their life. It is a 2-for-1 at one of the worst times as well. Dragon up in just 15 seconds.
And you can see Joker is still pressuring in this jungle. Czark having to play safe just to take their Gromp in case they get collapsed upon. Joker just that much stronger right now, and Dìble gets free reign over this mid lane.
Dìble able to push up, even though they haven't really been able to get the kills. The CS differential is looking like an explosive one with that Sarah's Embrace as well. Dìble should have a little bit more safety, and surprisingly, it is going to be a Dragon dragged out. Very well played so far and still in control. Yes, it's only a 2.2k lead. Not too crazy, but I think it's going to be enough, right? Like, this is going to be Orbit Gaming putting themselves in a really solid position. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
I
The
mean,
fighting never stops. The fighting never stops. What is going on here? Down goes the bot lane of Fate.
I mean, and that, I mean, Kalista didn't have, I mean, I don't know why they were pushed up so far. You knew where they were on the map. You should not be pushed up that far in mid lane. I mean, that is just a League 101. If you're playing around, it looks like they're going to try. Oh, I love that play.
That's pretty good.
They saw that they could swerve it just enough. They get 2 towers off of that. So 2 kills, 2 towers with that Herald. That is a massive swing. We're now looking at almost 4k gold lead in the span of a minute.
Disgusting job here. Just impeccable, I gotta say. the turnaround, right? Like these are very snowbally players. I'm learning here in the Infinity League. This is what it's about.
It really is. I mean, and I was going to make a point about that last play about how Kalista was never really in a position to put out any damage, getting caught out and zoned out, having to go around and face Dìble 1v1. But there was just a fight just right after where they got caught. So it looks like it's a lot of mispositioning by the side of Fate right now that allows the Astral to get these plays that are favorable for them.
Little bits and pieces are starting to fall into place. Once again, Joker now trying to get their CS up. They've already gotten the amount that they need, and honestly, between the two junglers, it's negligible, right? The 6-1 and 3 score is really where it's about. So as long as you got that 1200 smite ready to go, you are set. Baron is going to be up in under 45 seconds, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Right now, Ice looking at the side of Fate. I'm going to ask you once again, they're in a little bit of a not so commanding site. Where do they need to go? They've been looking for fights, but what's the optimal path for them?
You need to catch out this Aatrox a couple more times. That is really the strong point, and they're going to be TPing constantly into these fights. They already have Sundered Sky and steel cap boots, whatever they are, the old ninja tabbies, as I like to call them, because I don't know the new names of them. But because of that, it's just they're the strong point on the map right now. Is it looks like we're going to have a dive coming through onto this Yone, who's 1-5-0 and really not a power player on this map like he needs to be.
No, and that's why it's actually turned around, because Czark now on those Krugs said, oh, I'm actually in the sights. Dravoon, though, this is giving time. Keep in mind how long this is actually going on, and this is actually very smart by Orbit Gaming. I was actually going to be a bit worried. You go ahead and apply so much pressure to the top side and you just wait around. No, you're going to force that clock in, and I really do like that. The more you wait, the more the rest of the team rotates up. So instead of a 2v1, it's now a 4v4. TP's coming in here. Differences aside, it's going to be a challenge. Piece of the Cat, though, saying, okay, we don't really engage. We don't have to. I was going to say, if you do engage, that's a danger, but it's all 5 on the top lane after those TPs.
Yeah, and with Baron on the cards, there's not a dragon for another minute 50, so they can play something like this, and it looks like we're going to have a full 5v5, a great sweep coming through.
Yeah, triple sleep coming in, and Czark is going to try and do some damage, but Grandma's more than 5. Tower now goes down. The kill comes through on to the Zinzal, but the knockups are more than enough. Tom Kent gets a triple knockup instead, and that's going to allow the kills to come through. No way that Mustard is allowed to join in. The tower rendered away that CP. Disaster strikes for Fate as the game is blown wide open.
I mean, what a play there. Joker going into the backline, disrupting him. It was a great 3-man sleep by Lilia that just didn't have any damage follow-up from the Tristana, from the Kalista, because Joker was in the backside blocking them out of it. And then you had that re-engage by Pag on the TK, getting that 3-man knockup that was just so big to just clean up the fight. They now get to rotate to Dragon a minute early, to make sure they can get their vision down, and they're just, I mean, we're looking at, it's back up to a 4K. It had slid a little bit as we were waiting, but it is just, this game is getting blown wide open because of the strength of Dravoon and Joker right now.
They're just too powerful, and it's bleeding into just about everywhere else. Dragon going to be up in about 30 seconds, and Fate, they need to pick a good team fight. They need to pick a solid team fight to kind of end or maybe even start their run back in this game. It's not completely out of the woods. It's pretty dang close, but it's not, and it's actually going to be a Baron desperation attempt. They are going to call it down here, and I'm actually not upset about this one. They have one choice. They see the TP now coming in. It's going to be dangerous, getting quite low. It's do or die time. Dìble gets this 3-man shockwave, but isn't enough for Joker to get in. Joker's there. Smite comes in, and it is taken. That is going to be handed over to Czark, but how many more are they going to lose? Are they actually all alive? I think they are. Pag trying to jump forward is going to catch Kraken Slayer with that song, but look, this is going to be much different. A knockup from the side. A Mustard does not delay the inevitable. Down goes Kraken Slayer. But you make out like bandits with 4 Baron buffs alive. What a call from Fate.
Yeah, absolutely. That is exactly the call that they needed to make, and I'm glad that they made it. You have Kalista with the Rend, you have Smite, so it's very hard to take it from them, and they timed it perfectly. Yes, they lost Kraken Slayer on the back end, but you have 4, and that delays the game so much. Now, it does come in that they are going to lose this Dragon. They should lose it, just because it is a 4v5 right now. and it is going to be soul point for the side of Astral, but I'm not upset about what they're trying to do across this map. They have taken some towers, and they're pressuring where they need to, where they can, and taking that Baron was absolutely massive in favor of them. And it's going to be a negative Baron power play, I believe, unless they can make some miracle play once again. But it's what they needed to do. They pulled the trigger, and it's good to see that even though they're behind, they're still willing to pull triggers like that.
Oh no, and Dravoon is actually in a really dire spot here. Yes, you're pretty dang strong, but on your own, it's another problem. You do proc that Sterix, so how much more is it going to give? Looks like you're actually staying alive for a lot longer than I thought, but the ult is now wearing out, and because of that, in they go. Dìble on the other side is able to find Piece of the Cat. And I know you said it was a negative Baron power play. I think it's more even. I think we might, of course, it might be really, really small, but it seems like they're actually at least holding out, especially with that shutdown.
Absolutely, and it looks like they might be able to get this tower too, depending on how much how much work the Senna can put in. It looks like we might have Mustard going down here. Good dodge by the Senna there, and yeah.
Oh Jesus. Okay, okay. If the Tom Kench wasn't there, that was a whole different story.
Absolutely.
Oh man. Okay. With all that in stock, let's take a look at what's going down, right? Chemtech currently drawn on the board, looking like a Chemtech Soul, which is going to allow for later bullying. In the mid lane, though, Dìble at 3, 2, and 12, starting to become much stronger as well. Those shockwaves should hit quite hard. For Fate, though, that Yone, even though we said is 2 and 6, remember, it's a Yone, right? You can still have a lot of late game value if you just farm up. 177 feels pretty good there. The main one that I'm kind of still wondering about, Kraken Slayer and Ozone. Both of these players have not really been allowed to play the game, which is understandable. I'm wondering if there's going to be a breakout moment if those two are allowed to really put down the damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Orianna got off to a kind of a slow start against this Tristana, but the Tristana didn't get to push their lead like they needed to. This mid lane tower still standing really makes a good kind of banner for Astral to kind of stand in front of and work from, because it's kind of the key point that you have to take in order to get through on the rest of the map, as it looks like we're gonna have another fight on our hands.
Oh no, this fight is breaking out here. It's a double stun on the top side, meaning that Mustard is all alone. A Mustard maker turns into Mustard. Dìble is going to try and hold everyone off, but take a look at this. Like, you are more than fine. Shockwave draws the ball in and falls, trying to get away. Ozone running for their life. Kraken Slayer on the other side is getting chunked out by Joker. Joker having the time of their life, laughing their way to the bank. A final hit kills them off, and Ozone will fall as well. Another drop off as Dravoon finishes it off. Pag gets their second as it's 2-0-14. It's not an ace, but it might as well be, because it is Orbit Gaming Astral to take the base.
Absolutely. What a fight by Orbit Gaming Astral to force they saw the split, they split them up, and that's just the power that this comp has. And it looks like they're just going to try to end the game here. I mean, they have the strength, they have the minion wave. Why not?
Yeah, they're going to TP in. This is all 5, and I mean, there's only 3 alive. It's going to be GG. Orbit Gaming Astral power on through to take game 3 and deny the reverse sweep.
What an absolute banger of a game, getting through and just wow. I mean, it went from, hey, we're kind of even to we're slightly ahead, and it feels very much Orbit's game to lose. And then that last fight just blew the game wide open, and it was over. I expected there to at least be 1 or 2 more fights like that, and it was just gone.
Honestly, it was a wave prepped, right? That wave was just in a perfect position, and I don't know what they planned. I'm not sure it really did, because of how much fighting was going on. It always felt like a fight was happening somewhere, but that wave was perfect. You said, hey, let's go ahead, let's keep pushing, and it surprised us. I think it surprised the heck out of Kazard. I mean, Kazark on the top side was trying to push, get a couple more towers, and was like, yo, we can still hang on. Didn't realize the full weight of what was going down, so very well played for the benefit of Fate. I give him a lot of credit. That game 2 was a very nice sling in the back pocket. Said, hey, we still have our mechanics to rely on. Just got to find a way to manipulate that to your favor again in multiple games.
Absolutely. I mean, they played a fantastic game too. We saw their strengths and we saw their weaknesses in game 1, right? They tried for a little bit fancier comp and it didn't quite work out. their macro was left a little bit wanting. In game 3, though, I think they played it a lot better. They really started to mount a little bit of a comeback around Dravoon and taking him off the board a few times, but it was just a little bit too little too late. And with that Yone just not getting ahead like it needed to, they really didn't have a top laner that they could play around whenever Dravoon was just so far ahead.
Mm-hmm. That was one of those points really well played by Orbit Gaming. And I mean, for this Astral squad, I'm very impressed. We'll see what they can do if they can continue onwards inside of this split. Remember, that is now week 2 done. They had 3 more weeks to go ahead and get a positive record to move into that playoff spot. For the side of Fate, though, Fate's in their hands. They lost 2. They really can't lose anymore. We'll see what they can do later on in the season. But thank you so much for tuning into the broadcast here today of the Infinity League. We enjoyed having you here. My name is Orbital. With me, of course, is Icefired Gaming. And we, of course, were your casters for this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.